Grip socks are great, but why pay up to $40 for a single pair when you can pay a lot less? Stop wasting money and get yours for just $14.99 a pair at puregripsocks.com.
So this is the brand new Nike Tiempo Legend 9 Elite, a very important Tiempo model for the Nike brand in that it obviously changes quite a bit coming from the Legend 8 that it replaces in an attempt to cater to those longtime Tiempo fans, but they're also trying to change the perception of the Tiempo line at the very same time, where instead of marketing this as a heritage defender's boot as it has been for the longest time, they're touting the fact that this is the lightest Tiempo model they've ever made and saying that it's more so an attacker's boot for an attacker that wants something with a leather upper. Now, as I've talked about so many times on this channel before, marketing material and boots by position, it's ultimately meaningless at the end of the day. But as far as what we are actually getting here in the Legend 9 is probably the simplest variation of a Tiempo model since the Tiempo Legend 5, which was quite a long time ago. And you're getting that simplified variation of a Tiempo model for the same $230 retail price, although do bear in mind that this limited edition colorway that I have here in my hands does bear a $10 premium. But here's the thing, and I'm gonna be brutally honest with you guys, as I always am, the Tiempo Legend 9 Elite is an extremely unimpressive football boot from a technological standpoint. The concept, the materials, the tech used in general is a football boot that Nike could have executed all the way back in 2012. But as unimpressive as it is from a technological standpoint, they're really good football boots. Now, is that statement a little bit confusing? Yeah, it is, but that's why I'm going to explain myself in this video as we go over all the tech features, the good, the bad, how they fit and feel on feet, whether or not they're an improvement over the Legend 8 that they replace, and ultimately, if this is the Tiempo that we've all been asking for over the last several years. So if you're interested in learning more, please stick around, watch the entire review. And if you are by chance interested in a pair of the Tiempo Legend 9s for yourself, they're already available in a couple different colorways. You can click the first link down below. That's going to take you to the review page on my website where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes where you'll be able to pick them up below their normal $230 retail price. As always, if you guys do end up enjoying the video and perhaps want to see reviews of the takedown models in the new Tiempo line, please don't forget to support this one with a like. And guys, we are so close to 700,000 subscribers, within 1,000 subs. If you guys watch the channel but aren't already subscribed to the channel, but you do enjoy the content, it would mean the world to me if you could hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. So first things first, I want to address something that's been pretty prominent in the marketing material for the Legend 9, and that is Nike's emphasis on speed, where I think there have been plenty of people, especially longtime Tiempo fans, that have been concerned that this new Legend 9 is going to be basically a leather version of the Mercurial, which wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, but it's not what Tiempo fans necessarily want. And I am pleased to report that these feel absolutely nothing like a pair of Nike Mercurials. They also feel absolutely nothing like a pair of Phantom GTs. This still feels like a Tiempo, and I'll even say this. I was kind of surprised by it myself. Despite the very sleek look that this new Legend 9 has, it is almost speed boot-esque. It's actually much more padded on the ball than I was expecting it to be, which may or may not be a good thing for you depending on what your preferences are. But if you're worried that the new Tiempo Legend 9 won't feel like a Tiempo, don't be worried because it does. As for the tech side of things, I would describe the Tiempo Legend 9 as simple but with a twist. Of course, being a Tiempo model, you expect a Kangaroo leather upper, and that's exactly what you get here. All of the bits that are in white, aside from the laces and tongue, are made out of nice quality Kangaroo leather. Is it quite as soft as the Legend 8? I would say it's a touch firmer, but I think that extra firmness comes because of the memory foam inserts that you have scattered throughout the majority of the upper, which does inherently add a little bit of structure to the material, but it ultimately still feels very soft against your feet. And I think the added structure long term is actually going to be beneficial to the overall lockdown, where surprisingly, given that this is a leather upper with memory foam inserts and a standard nylon reinforcement liner, no quad fit system anymore, no Flyknit tunnel, no Flyknit to be found on this boot at all. It feels remarkably structured on your feet, and at no point in time did I feel like these are sloppy compared to the last several generations of Tiempo that have all had some kind of intricate, complex kind of structure system through the midfoot. This just utilizes a synthetic material that you have running through the Nike swoosh on the lateral side, and that just flows into the synthetic that you're going to find at the heel, all of which just works extremely well. It's simple, it's no nonsense, it's the same way they've been making leather football boots for a long time, and while it might not be the most technically impressive football boot, it feels very comfortable, it feels very natural, and it's one of those football boots that when you slide them on your feet, they just feel right. With the Tiempo Legend 8, I really complained about the leather not being the star of the show because of the internal layers of Flyknit and quad fit. Luckily, that is not the case with the Legend 9. It feels like a much more pure leather football boot experience, but like I mentioned, with a twist. And that's because you do have these memory foam inserts that do flow throughout the majority of the upper. You have a large chunk right here on the medial side, and I love the fact that the leather goes all the way through the midfoot, given that this is a very kind of high usage area on your foot. You have memory foam scattered across the toe box, across the forefoot, at the very top of the forefoot, and then even here on the lateral side, where of course this part of the midfoot is more so just left a little bit thinner with this synthetic material that they've used. What the memory foam ultimately provides as far as a modification to the Kangaroo leather touch is a slight dampened sensation. Again, there's nothing that's really that surprising about this boot, and I guess the difference between having memory foam and not having memory foam with a Kangaroo leather upper is that leather in general always feels soft, which means that that little bit of cushion tends to have the ball hang on your foot that split second longer. With the memory foam, it hangs on your foot even that little bit longer. And I think that's kind of an exaggerated way of describing how they feel, but in general, as soon as I made contact with the ball, it just felt very soft. That's the best way that I can describe it. And honestly, while I don't think a football boot is going to improve your touch or better your overall control of the ball, having that little bit of extra padding versus so many thin football boots that are out there right now does feel a little bit refreshing. And again, something that was really surprising about this boot, because despite the kind of slim looks, the boot has more of a padded feel than I was expecting. So for those of you that are looking for something that even has a little bit of additional protection, this is easily one of the most protective football boots that you can buy right now. It's also worth noting that this is a limited edition colorway, which is why you have all of these silver details on the Kangaroo leather upper that kind of show different design elements from previous generations of Tiempo. That does add a little bit of additional grip, although it's very subtle. And on all the other normal colorways, which of course I'll be reviewing on the channel shortly, where the memory foam is located, you have this very light dimpled texturing. So basically just a little bit of roughness on the surface. Whether or not that's going to make any kind of a significant difference as far as touch is concerned, I don't think that's going to be the case. But if anything, there is some form of modification, no matter which version you go for, in terms of giving you that little bit of additional friction on the surface of the upper versus just leaving the leather completely bare. And here's something that's pretty interesting. There is no visible ACC branding on the Tiempo Legend 9, nor is it listed in the tech specs on Nike's own website for the time being. There might be clarification on that in the future, but given that ACC technology, a wet control element for those unfamiliar, is completely invisible, we don't know if it's been included unless they physically write ACC somewhere on the boot, which they have not for the Legend 9. Moving across the top of the foot, they've maintained kind of the same design we've seen for the last couple generations, where it's a mock one-piece upper, meaning that you have this central portion that is attached to either side of the opening. So it's not a true standalone tongue in that it can't float from side to side. It creates this one-piece enclosure, but it still utilizes a single lace hole system on either side, which just gives it a little bit more of a traditional feel and look that I'm personally a fan of. A lot of people have complained about this top piece not actually being made out of Flyknit. It's just an elasticated mesh. Honestly, that doesn't bother me all that much. I don't think you can really feel a difference between this material and actual Flyknit, although I'm not in love with this little restrictor piece that they put at the edge of this tongue, and that it just prevents it from stretching too much, which I understand why they would do that. I guess it allows this material to not overstretch should it not be as durable as Flyknit or as resilient, I guess I should say, but it does mean that when you put the boots on, you can't stretch the opening quite as large, so it just makes it a little bit more difficult to slide on and take off compared to previous generations of the Tiempo. Nonetheless, it still wraps across the top of your foot really nicely, and because it has that little bit of padding to it, it just kind of works well with what they've done here on the upper. Moving to the rear, you're going to find that the Tiempo Legend 9 does revert back to a more traditional heel construction rather than the Flyknit kind of almost mercurial-esque design that we had on the Legend 8. I much prefer this. It obviously is low cut with an internal plastic heel counter, and then the heel liner is this really soft synthetic suede material, kind of similar to what we had on the Legend 7, but with a little bit less padding. You can see there are some perforations and design elements at the back of the heel. Nonetheless, this material is really good at gripping your socks, locking your heel in place, and also just being really soft for the sake of comfort. So I'm a big fan of what they've done here. That to me is a gigantic improvement over the Legend 8. And then the insole is fully removable and pretty much unchanged. Don't know how that got in there. But you can see it's the same Nike Grip branded mesh liner, which just feels like regular mesh for the record, and it's made from a single layer of yellow foam with blue pour-on foam inserts, although it is nice that they added a little bit of glue to prevent that insole from sliding around, but not enough glue to where it's completely glued in and you can't remove it and replace it for something else should you want to do that. Moving to the base of the boot, you are going to find a Soleplate end stud pattern that has been completely redesigned, but ultimately isn't that different from the Legend 8 that it replaces. As far as the Soleplate is concerned, you can see it has a much more kind of angular ribbing through the midfoot, and that's to allow them to use slightly thinner plastic and shave a little bit of weight out of the boot without compromising any structure. As far as the feel of this Soleplate is concerned, despite the different design, it pretty much feels exactly the same to me as the Legend 8, which is not a bad thing. It's got some nice flexibility to it, and in general feels very natural with what is admittedly a more traditional Tiempo model with the Kangaroo leather upper this time around. As far as the FG stud pattern is concerned, they've kind of gone away from some of the chevron studs that were featured in the support area through the forefoot as well as at the base of the heel. Now the heel uses strictly bladed studs, which is a little bit more traditional as far as Tiempo is concerned, although you can see the angle and the shape of them, they're quite sharp, so it's a little bit more aggressive. And then the stud pattern, the layout is the same. You still get that chevron mercurial-esque stud at the tip of the toe, and then these studs have a little bit of a notch taken out of them, so they're not true conical studs anymore. But again, as far as what you can actually feel from a grip and performance standpoint, it's almost identical to what they were doing before. And if you've worn a Tiempo in the last, let's say, 8 years, you kind of know what to expect from a traction standpoint. It's aggressive while still bordering the line of being somewhat traditional in terms of that freedom to twist and pivot. And overall, I think it's just a really solid Soleplate and stud pattern that works well with the rest of the boot. Which brings us to the weight, where again, Nike was really emphasizing how light this new Tiempo Legend 9 is. So we're gonna test that theory using a scale and comparing it directly to the Legend 8 Elite that it replaces. Both of these boots are in a size 9.5 US. We'll start with the Legend 8, and you can see that they weigh in at 7.75 ounces, the equivalent of 220 grams, which is still lightweight for this style of football boot. Change the scale back to ounces, and we'll throw on the Legend 9, and you can see that they weigh in at 7.6 ounces, the equivalent of 216 grams, which I can confirm is lighter than the model that it replaces, but only by a measly 4 grams. Are you realistically going to feel that on your feet? Absolutely not. Is the boot light? Yes. Does it feel anything like speed boot light? No. So here they are on feet, and I haven't commented much on the looks of the Legend 9, but I happen to think it's a very good looking design. It's a good balance between kind of old school, but also kind of modern. And obviously in this limited edition colorway, with all the cool callbacks to previous Tiempos, I think they did a pretty good job with this, and even the regular launch colors so far. Nonetheless, the important part is how comfortable these feel on feet, and the out-of-the-box comfort is phenomenal, especially when paired with some Pure Grip Socks Pro, which for those that don't know, is my own brand of grip socks. This new Pro variation features an upgraded material that is extremely stretchy and super soft for maximum comfort with grip across the back of the heel and of course the bottom of the foot. They're available in a wide variety of colors for the super affordable price of just $16.99. If you're interested in trying some out for yourself, the website to visit is puregripsocks.com, which of course will be linked down below. Now, as far as fit and feel is concerned, there are differences from the Legend 8 in that you really feel the leather against your foot, which I would say is a gigantic improvement. I want my leather boots to feel like leather football boots, so they got that right for sure. And then they've also modified the shape where the toe box and forefoot area is a little bit wider, and the toe in general I think is a little bit more rounded this time around, which I think just feels better. The Legend 8, for whatever reason, kind of got a little bit pointy towards the toe, which might work for your foot type, but for me personally, I think this is a nice improvement. And again, if I had to compare it back to a previous Tiempo model, it reminds me the most of the Tiempo Legend 5, which I am personally a big fan of. The leather itself, very soft, very flexible. The heel liner, super soft, grabs your heel really nice. With the laces tied tight, the lockdown is phenomenal. Despite not having any of these complex structure elements that previous Tiempos have had, your foot feels very secure, and in general, the boots are more responsive than you'd expect them to be. So from a width perspective, this is one of those boots that's going to fit pretty much anybody quite comfortably. There's a decent amount of width all the way through. Plus, you're gonna get that stretch of the Kangaroo leather just because it is a natural material. And then as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing these in my usual size 9.5 US, and the fit and length is perfect. So if you're looking to order a pair for yourself, I would strongly recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. So in conclusion, I think there's going to be two very different ways that people perceive the new Tiempo Legend 9. There's going to be the group of people that have wanted a simplified version of the Tiempo and are ultimately going to be pretty happy with what Nike have delivered here with their 9th generation. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, you're going to get the people that think that this is a very lazy football boot because, again, from a tech perspective, it feels like something that they could have made all the way back in 2012, and those people are probably going to comment that Nike sucks and they're going downhill. Not even just in terms of Tiempos, but in terms of Nike football boots in general, this is either exactly what you want or exactly what you didn't want. So beauty is in the eye of the beholder with the Tiempo Legend 9, and as far as my own personal opinion is concerned, I really like these boots. I know that I preach against marketing. I even did so in today's video, but this is a Tiempo model that is simple enough and pure enough to where when I put them on my feet and simply started juggling the ball, I loved the simplicity. It made me feel smooth. It made me feel like I had that little bit of extra control. I liked the dampened sensation provided by the memory foam combined with the super soft Kangaroo leather. It's a very comfortable football boot. I think it fits extremely well, and it's almost refreshing to have something as no nonsense as this football boot is. Is it as technically impressive as most other top-end models out there? Absolutely not. But I think it looks great, I think it feels great, and it really is an example of everything that you need and nothing that you don't. Again, nothing groundbreaking here, but it's probably my favorite Tiempo model since the Tiempo Legend 5, which was one of my all-time favorite boots. Anyways, guys, that's it for my review. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to support it with a like. Again, if you're interested in a pair of these Legend 9s for yourself, first link down below, go ahead and check it out. You'll be able to pick them up below their normal retail price by way of some SR4U coupon codes. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to ask them down below in the comments section, and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you. If you're not subscribed to the channel already, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. You can find all my social media information linked down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.